Welcome to Truth Bombs and Tea. I'm your host, Tina Binden. And here on my channel, we focus on living to our fullest potential and living our best life through having strong growth mindset and emotional intelligence. So today's topic is very timely. It is about navigating relationships throughout the Christmas season. And I'm going to give you 7 really practical tips and insights into how you can have the best Christmas probably in years through these practical strategies. So, Christmas has a reputation of being, the season of peace, love, joy, and we all aspire to that. Okay. I've always found it really interesting that, we set aside peace, love, and joy specifically for Christmas when we could and should be doing it every day. But I digress. So, studies have shown that around the Christmas period, stress levels skyrocket. So, in Australia, it's as much as about 36% of people surveyed said that Christmas time was anything but relaxing and fun. And it's a similar statistic in America. So in Western countries, on the surface, Christmas is all jolly, but underneath it actually spikes people's anxiety, people's depression, and stresses like financial pressures, family obligations, social expectations. So let's try to make Christmas the best possible. And a big chunk of that is navigating the relationships of your life, whether they're co-workers and Christmas parties and family get-togethers are a really big trigger for people, and friendships that, there's that social expectation on everyone. So the thing underneath it all that will help is not more alcohol. I think we've all tried that one. Doesn't work. Is our expectations of what's going to happen and of people around us. Your own expectations, our own, and the expectations placed upon us by other people. And the only thing you can do is manage your own expectations and manage your own emotional thermometer and your own mental toolbox. Okay. Because if you're thinking that this year it'll be different, that, your mum won't, pick on you, or your dad won't do X, or, your Auntie Gertrude won't say inappropriate things, or someone's not going to get drunk and cause an argument. If you think that this year will be different and those people won't do the same things over and over again, you're sadly mistaken. Okay. So the only thing that we have control over is our own uh, emotional capacities, as well as our own strategies for handling any situation that comes. So I'm going to go over 7 with you now that are really practical and simple to do. Okay. So oftentimes, as I said, our expectations get the better of us. We expect either people to change, like I just said, or we expect things to be rosy and glowy, or conversely, we expect things to be horrible. And so we go in with a bad attitude. Okay. Or we expect other people to not do what the other person always does. So, step 1, you need to get clear on your non-negotiables, okay, in your relationships. If Auntie Gertrude always brings up her particular views about, uh, you know, gays or people that are rich, or political views, and they're opposed to yours, you can't physically close her mouth. So you may need to excuse yourself, okay? Whatever it is, you need to have a think about, what are you going to sort of put up with or sit and listen to or watch, and what you're not. Okay. So when you have higher emotional intelligence, research has shown that get less triggered, okay? Because you can recognize and regulate your emotions. A lot of people, or many people, when they start to get stressed, drink too much at Christmas. And the alcohol does not make the other person stop doing what they're doing. And the alcohol that you're consuming doesn't make your brain more relaxed. Okay. In fact, it does the opposite. So the tool of emotional intelligence is the thing here. Okay. So if you recognize, you go in with your non negotiables, whether that's your dad, your mum, your sibling, or if it's a work party, you know what you feel you can tolerate and what you can't. And when you're clear on that and anything happens, you can then make choices about it. If you don't get clear on it, you're kind of going in blind, okay? You're kind of like a sitting duck. Things come up and you go, oh my God, yeah, that's right. I really hate that. But you don't have any, it's sort of like a surprise attack. So think about what you will and what you won't put up with, what you do, what you don't enjoy. And that gives you that better vantage point of yep, I clocked that before I came here, and I know now I'm going to exit, or I know now I'm not going to, get drunk because it won't help. All right. So that awareness of your non-negotiables is number one. And the research is clear that people who have the emotional intelligence to do that have a far easier time to manage, and they can make clear, quick decisions, which then de escalates their stress. Okay, so some questions that you can ask yourself is like, what would make this event or holiday feel successful for me? Okay, everyone else's expectations and ideas of success are different. What activities drain my energy and what activities fill my cup? So if you know that there are certain work uh, parties or friendship events that you've gone to in the past and you come back and you just feel like you're a limp bit of pasta that's been, stood on the floor, you're drained, then you make your not excuses, but you make your responses and say, "Oh no, I'm busy that day," or "No, no, thank you, I'm not coming." All right. So, what are you willing to compromise on, and what's off the table? Okay. So, Auntie Gertrude's drunken rants, you might just go, "Yeah, yeah, whatever," and you move on. Or it might be something that you can't tolerate and that you won't tolerate. Okay. So that's step one. Get clear on your non-negotiables. All right. So at Christmas time, with this whole expectation and pressure of peace, love, and joy, people tend to let their boundaries slip. Okay. So it's like, oh, I'm being selfish if I tell, great Auntie Gertrude, um, you know, that I excuse myself and then I don't speak to her again for the rest of the night. I'm being a jerk. I'm being horrible. No, you're not. Um, you're being emotionally intelligent. Okay. So if you don't have boundaries, you're not taking care of yourself. Boundaries are there because you value your own energy and your own feelings. If you have no boundaries, you're not valuing your own self. Okay. So the funny thing is, if people try to be Mother Teresa and never have a crossword to say to someone or never have any boundaries, they end up being quite bitter, drained, and resentful. Okay. And nobody wants that. So, how do you set boundaries without being an a-hole? Okay. Be direct and specific. Don't say, I might not be able to stay for long. Say, I'll be here from 3 till 6 p.m. Okay. Setting clear expectations is really, really important. So the clarity prevents confusion. So use I statements. So instead of saying to great Auntie Gertrude, you always make, everything about politics or religion, you can say, I'm not comfortable discussing politics, so I'll leave you to it. Okay. So being direct is not aggressive. You're not saying you are an idiot. You're saying, I'm not comfortable with this conversation, so I'll leave you to it. And if you're not used to being direct, you probably will think it's aggressive, but it is not. Okay. It's just clear boundaries with people. And then, communicate early and clearly. Don't drop a bomb on somebody at the last minute. Give people time to adjust. That's why, if your parents say, oh, hey, come over for Christmas, and you know that they expect you to, stay from 7 a.m. to 12 midnight, and that's not something that you want to do, you can say, hey, mum and dad, I'll be over at 7 and I'll stay till 2, or whichever the main meal is, that you want to do. If you're there and you don't say anything, and then all of a sudden you get up and go, oh, I'm going now, you're kind of sideswiping them and blindsiding them. Okay, so don't drop really late bombs. Communicate early and clearly. All right. Number 3, prepare for the predictable patterns in your relationships. I've done this many times over my lifetime, and that is, you think, oh, I'll go, and maybe this year Uncle Bob won't be handsy, or, whatever it is, okay? And inevitably, it doesn't happen. It, on the rare occasion, could happen if someone else is self-aware and emotionally intelligent. But most people, not our tribe, not you, but most people don't want to look at themselves, and they don't think that they've done anything wrong, and they think, the onus is on everyone else. But we are smarter than that. We have good mental health, we have a growth mindset, and we are emotionally intelligent and developing that. So other people won't. So please manage those expectations, okay? Mentally prepare and emotionally prepare for triggers before time, and work out what you're going to do. And we touched on that beforehand, okay? So create an exit strategy for those things that come up time and time again. You might redirect conversation by saying, oh, that sounds interesting. Oh, did you see the beautiful tree? Okay, so it's kind of that distraction method. Practice some responses in advance. If you have somebody that kind of intimidates you and they put you on the spot, and then you're like, blah, 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 and you're stammering, have a couple of responses up your sleeve. Okay. Maybe find a physical place that's not being used where you can retreat, because socializing is very overwhelming. At least it is for me. Socializing drains my social battery. So I love to be able to go step out into a garden, or, go upstairs and go to the bathroom and just, stand on the veranda and observe everybody, or just to get that break. Okay. And set a time limit and stick to it. And that's piggybacks on that first one, which is, don't communicate clearly and don't drop a bomb on someone at the last minute. So tell people that you're going to go at 2 o'clock and then stick to it. Okay. All right. So step 4, control what you can control. And again, we can control what's between our ears and what's in here. And these strategies are what is going to help you do that, to navigate Christmas and have the best time possible. Okay. We like to think that we can say something subtle to someone, and they'll get the cue and change their behavior, but research shows that that's not true. Okay. So you can only control your own self. And as I said, that's what these tips are for. So the Gottman Institute emphasizes building your emotional bank account. So essentially, small positive interactions that create resilience and a bit of a reserve when conflict inevitably arises at Christmas time. And when I say conflict, I'm not saying, knock down, drag out physical altercations, although, that I've never had that, thank goodness. But I know people who have had too much to drink, and then physical punch-ons occur. Okay. we're talking about just like poking the bear and those like little childhood wounds from a sibling that they like to twist and torture, or great auntie Gertrude's overbearingness, or the high expectations of parents, or the drunk co-worker that you know makes a scene. When you know that there's these things, you need to create positive interactions, maybe with those people throughout the year, or certainly with yourself, so that you feel like your energy is full and you don't already go somewhere and feel frustrated, strung out, and drained. Okay. All right. So, how you can control things includes how much sleep you get before the gatherings. Okay. As I said, if you're already strung out because you've been up, till 12 and 2 a.m. for the 4 nights before your family Christmas, you're asking for it. Okay. When you arrive, maybe don't arrive on an empty stomach. I have been to events where I know they're not going to get dinner out till like 8:30, and I'm starving by then, so I usually have a meal before I go because hangriness is not nice. Your exit time is within your control. How many invitations you accept and which ones you accept. You don't have to accept all of them, guys. How much emotional energy you're willing to spend. When I feel like my emotional bank account is halfway, I start making noises that I'm going to be going. Okay. Sometimes if there's people say, oh my God, we haven't done the speeches, or oh, we haven't opened the presents, or whatever it is, I will stay till it's like just under half and then I'm out. Okay. Because in past years, I've drained it all the way down and I've paid for it either in not sleeping well, in feeling sick and getting a headache, in resenting somebody because, as I was tired, they triggered me by something. Okay. So, yeah, invest wisely. Your own reactions to triggering comments, like most comments that are triggering are not personal, right? Even if they kind of are attacked upon you, think to yourself, like, only hurt people hurt people. So if someone's trying to gouge at you, really, sticks and stones, right? Words are only words. And you got to think it's coming from them. It's coming from a wounded place in them, and try not to personalize it. And then who you spend time with and for how long. Maybe 5 minutes with Auntie Gertrude, feels like 5 years and that's all you want to do. What you can't control, I want to point this out to you, other people's expectations, other people's disappointments, especially when you change your behavior towards repeated negative patterns. People will go, oh, decades of family dysfunction. Aunt Gertrude's opinions about everything, and whether people approve of your boundaries. Really, the only person that needs to approve of them is you. Step 5, like, use your emotional intelligence in real time, like, be self-aware. Recognize what triggers you in the moment, and if your shoulders are sort of bunching up and you're clenching your jaw or biting your tongue, that's your cue to step back. Okay. Regulate yourself. Just because you feel something doesn't mean you have to act on it immediately. So if Auntie Gertrude says something political and you're like, oh my God, you've said this for XYZ and there's facts that show that you're wrong, instead of ripping her 2 new ones, as I said, it's not worth it, because you're going to be seen as the bad guy that, upset Auntie Gertrude. Um, and it's not going to change her. So you're going to have a big energy draining scene for nothing. That's where those other strategies that I shared come in, which is like, that's really interesting for you. I'm uncomfortable with this conversation, so I'm just going to go and get a drink. Okay. Read the room. So number 3 tip here in the emotional toolkit, read the room. So do you want to get involved in the gossiping in the workplace with the drunk people? Do you want to get involved in a big kerfuffle in the middle of your family? Okay. You don't need to be the curator of, or the savior of anyone. You just need to be present and enjoying and connecting as much as possible. So If you feel like there's something escalating and you feel like you have some tools to help that, fine. But the onus is not on you to do so. Yours is to keep yourself calm and present. Okay. All right. Step 6, redefine what successful relationships look like. Okay, so psychology today emphasizes that clinging to outdated holiday ideals causes significant unnecessary suffering. Okay, that's a fantasy, not reality. So, maybe when you're a kid, Christmases were like full of wonder and joy, and people seemed to get along. AKA, well, actually, spoiler, they didn't. It's just that as a child, you were focused on other things. All right. So be realistic. If you're not close with your brother or your mother or your coworker or whichever the situation is, don't try and force some sort of weird, artificial, sugary, sweet niceness at Christmas. Like Christmas is just a concept, it hasn't altered reality. Okay. So, Australian psychologists specifically note that the parents of adult children need to balance nostalgia with the reality of who their children are now, and vice versa. We need to balance the reality of who our parents once were when we were kids, ripping into all of our presents and still believing in Santa, and what the reality is now. So, flexibility trumps tradition. Like, be realistic. Okay. So maybe the successful relationship looks like, and I'll give you a couple of examples, everyone leaving on speaking terms and no fights, even if the conversations were kind of superficial, right? We don't want to bring up, the fact that your sister stole your boyfriend from 40 years ago or whatever, right? You maintain boundaries without apologizing. That's important. Like at the beginning, you might have let an apology or two slip. But after a while, just like working out a muscle at the gym, you think, I don't need to apologize for my boundaries, the things that keep me grounded, the things that keep me calm, and the things that keep me present. I don't need to apologize for those, even though you might not like them. Getting through the day without having a screaming match, that might look successful for you for Christmas. Enjoying 30 minutes of genuine connection, even if the rest of it's superficial, and protecting your own mental health, even if it disappoints other people. So that's what successful relationships might look like. Manage the fantasy versus the reality. And step 7, create a recovery plan. Most people don't realize that these things take a mental, emotional, and a physical toll on you, especially the more triggers there are, the more of the toll is paid. So pre and post events and relationship gatherings is important. As I said, get enough sleep. Maybe treat yourself to like a new outfit to make yourself feel, fresh and confident for these events, right? And then post recovery strategies are even more important because now you are drained. So schedule downtime immediately after family events. For me, if I attend a big family event, I like to leave 2 days where I can just chill, go into the garden, read, YouTube, whatever. Okay. Without that social pressure of, I've got to go here, I've got to make this, I've got to wrap the gifts, I've got to do blah, 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 right? Debrief with a supportive friend or partner. Like if things did happen, and even if you used all the tools I've given you, sometimes it can still hurt. You may not react, but it can still hurt, or it can be confusing, or it can be confronting as you realize things about other people and as you realize stuff about yourself. So having someone that you can sort of just chat about and riff with and unpick it all and move through it and heal it is really important. Okay, you can journal. That's a good one, particularly if sometimes you can't talk to anyone. It's perfect to journal down what happened, how you felt about it, how you responded or reacted. Be compassionate with yourself. These things are very emotionally heightened. And so you may not have done all the things that I'm sharing with you, okay? Or you may have dropped the ball on one of them, and that's okay because it's a learning process. And even if you take one or two tools and tips and try them this year, and then you can always add to your repertoire, because these tips that I'm giving you are perfect for Christmas, but they're absolutely perfect for navigating relationships in general so that they're better for you. Okay. And sometimes, we have the family is everything, family comes first. Doesn't matter how badly your family treats you, their family, so put up with it. I was one of those, right? But I subsequently have woken up to that. I've become more realistic about that. So sometimes, and thankfully I don't have this at this point, the healthiest thing is not to show up at all. Okay. That's not to say you're going to cut people out of your life forever, but sometimes you have to. If they're very, very toxic people that do nothing but manipulate, gaslight you, and hurt you, sometimes you have to walk away. But hopefully, you might just pick and choose the times where you want to skip certain family gatherings, and that's okay. It may not be received that well from the person that you're declining, but you're not put on this earth to just please other people. You're here to be the best version of yourself and to be present and connected as much as possible. And sometimes that requires disconnecting from certain events and people. Okay. And here are some parameters that might help you decide whether to skip something or not. Okay. And this comes from Psychology Today as well. Consider skipping a gathering if it is constantly traumatic or triggering. If someone who harmed you in the past will be present. Your mental health consistently deteriorates after family interactions or interactions with this group of people. Substance abuse or violence is likely because it happens repeatedly before, and you genuinely dread it more than it bringing you joy. They're all good, sound reasons to skip an event. So, navigating relationships at any time is tricky, but it tends to come to a head like a powder keg that can go off like that at Christmas time due to all the things that we discussed. And if you add financial pressures, the busyness, the social calendar like exploding, it is a recipe, it can be a recipe for disaster when it comes to relationships. But using the 7 tools that I've shared with you, and I'll just recap for you, because then you can go back and look at these at your leisure. What are your relationship non-negotiables? That's step 1. What are the boundaries that you're going to set in a way without being a jerk? Number 3, prepare for the predictable patterns. Okay. Don't allow the fantasy to creep in and you think, it's going to be rosy and peachy. Focus on the things that you can control. Use your emotional intelligence in real time by prepping things, phrases, and places to go when things become overwhelming. Redefine what successful relationships look like to you and create a recovery plan. Okay. So try those, try 1 or 2 this Christmas, and I guarantee you that you will have one of the better Christmases you've had for a long time. Let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know if you're going to try any out. And I can talk from personal experience that each Christmas gets better and better for me. And in fact, relationships in general get better and better for me because I do practice these tips. So until next time, let's make the rest of our life the very best of our life. Bye for now.